one last time. Fresh out the oven, it's Cinema Bums. I'm Wade.
And I'm Emmett.
Cinema Bums is a podcast where we watch through every single movie in popular film franchises, one each week, to try and track how the storytelling changes over time. Today we are continuing our miniseries Webhead Summer, covering every Spider-Man film. We will fully spoil today's film, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but we will not spoil any future entries in the series. Emmett, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. How are you, Wade?
I am doing all the better for having rewatched this film. It's great. It's even better than I remembered.
Yeah, it is. It is even better than I remembered it being as well. I finished watching it this morning.
Me too.
I forgot how it hits so hard in all of the different spots that you want a good superhero movie to hit. You know? Great action, great emotional scenes, the tragedy, the comedy, it's all there.
Absolutely. Today we're talking about, as we said, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I always thought a little bit of a clunky title. I kind of wish it could just be called Into the Spider-Verse or Spider-Verse or something.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's like something where like they lose $100 million if the word Spider-Man is not in the title, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, it was released December 14th, 2018 by Sony Pictures. This is the animated movie, the first animated movie in the Spider-Man series. If you have not seen this one before, it has 3 directors.
What?
The first is Peter Ramsey, who directed the animated film Rise of the Guardians. He is now making his live-action directing debut on the Ahsoka Disney Plus TV show.
Whoa.
The other 2 directors are Bob Persichetti and Rodney Rothman, who both made their debuts with this film. Rothman also co-wrote the script with Phil Lord of Lord and Miller, who produced this film. They are sort of the main creative impetus behind this movie. This movie started by Sony asking Lord and Miller if they were interested in making an animated Spider-Man movie. And it was their idea to adapt the Spider-Verse comics by Dan Slott from 2014 to have Miles Morales as the lead. They are the duo who directed and wrote Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, 21 Jump Street, the Lego Movie, 22 Jump Street, and Solo, A Star Wars Story, until they got kicked off for making a comedy. But more on that someday in the future. Anyway, I love these guys. You know, I think the Lego Movie is a classic. I think 22 Jump Street is a classic. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is a classic. The script and the production work on this is great.
Absolutely. This movie kicks ass.
It really does. A big part of that is the score, which is by Daniel Pemberton, who's actually relatively fresh into composer work, but he also did Birds of Prey, another good recent superhero movie. This runs 1 hour and 57 minutes, had a budget of $90 million, made $375 million, which is good. It definitely made back its budget, but I think it's the lowest grossing Spider-Man movie, and definitely not great for a Christmas movie either. I remember this was more of a word of mouth, like critical darling Netflix hit sort of movie than a like gigantic smash at the box office.
Yeah.
But it was acclaimed, as we said, 87 on Metacritic. It is by far the best reviewed Spider-Man movie by those metrics. And it won Best Animated Feature at the Oscars that year.
Hell yeah.
One of only 6 movies not made by Disney or Pixar to do so ever. Emmett, we've seen a lot of Peter Parker movies. So what is this Miles Morales movie like?
It's a breath of fresh air. Like, this is such a cool Spider-Man. This is such a wonderful introduction to the character, introduction to the world. I thought about how, like, all of the points of the origin story are hit, but they actually just make the movie just the origin story, which I think is cool. You know, it's like like the whole leading up to having the uncle die and like having the moment of responsibility and like saving everybody being the origin thing, without it being like, first half we're going to kill off the uncle and then in the second half we're going to have the real bad guy come in, you know, like I think we've seen in a couple of these other ones. Really just quite wonderful. I love Miles. He's still got the same Spider-Man thing of being a nerd. He's a really smart kid. He goes to like an elite school, but this Spider-Man also is like going out and spray painting and like has a cool uncle who may or may not be on the wrong side of the law. I don't know. It just seems like a cooler thing. Also, I want to talk about the fact that his dad is a cop named Jefferson Davis. I saw in the scrolling of the titles. I was like, that's wild. His dad is like a black Latinx cop in Brooklyn named Jefferson Davis, which is just like, that's saying something. I'm not sure what exactly, but it is a wild choice, you know?
Is there a real life Jefferson Davis?
The president of the Confederacy.
Oh, wow.
Which is like a pretty serious, you know, like a pretty serious some sort of symbolic thing going on there. I was like, wow.
He's younger than Peter. He goes to middle school. I feel like they both seem very slightly older than they are, especially Gwen. Because I think that in this, Miles is 13 and Gwen is 14 is how old they're supposed to be. Yeah, he has this thing where his dad is a cop, Jefferson Davis, and then his dad's brother, Aaron Davis, is a criminal, the Prowler. And it's sort of this classic hero thing of like the cop and the criminal and the kid who takes the best of both of them and becomes his own thing with it. I think it's very, you know, it's all classic hero stuff, but it's all feels very fresh and very well done.
Yeah.
We should mention, so the Prowler is played by Donald Glover in Spider-Man Homecoming. This is a much more capable version, I think, of him we see here. But here he's played by Mahershala Ali, who I believe is watching Donald Glover in Community on the TV at one point, which is a fun little call-out. But yeah, it's Mahershala Ali as the Prowler and Brian Tyree Henry as his dad. And along with everyone else in this movie, like incredible vocal performances.
And then we've got this crew of other spider people, spider folk of many different dimensions, one of which is a pig. So I don't even know. Is Spider Pig a spider person, or is Peter Porker his own special sort of thing? Spider people from several different dimensions, which is all funny, but also just like wild and cool in different ways. We've got the Nicolas Cage noir spider. We've got the Penny Parker anime spider with the mech. We've got the Gwen Stacy Spider-Girl spider, who's got such a cool outfit. The pink and white spider outfit is
She's
so
in a
cool.
band. Yeah,
punk rock Spider-Man. Then Peter Porker. Then sad Spider-Man. And is there another? There's got to be at least one more, right?
Well, at the beginning of the movie, in Miles' universe, there is just regular Spider-Man played by Chris Pine, who seems to be basically the Tobey Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The universe is a little different, as we see throughout, but we see him reenact a lot of the scenes from the Tobey Maguire movies. So I think that is what he's primarily based on.
Including a great joke about the dance scene from the third one.
Yeah, that stuff is so good. I think that's it. I think that's the whole crew. So let me ask Emmett, just asking, do you have a favorite? If you had to pick a favorite other than Miles of this ragtag group of spider people, who's the standout to you?
Oh, it's difficult.
I
think it's got to be noir Spider-Man. I think it's got to be Nicolas Cage as as black and white Spider-Man. I love it. It's so crazy. It's so insane.
He's so good.
And I bet that wasn't a character that they had written. They were just like, we want to get Nicolas Cage in for this movie. and will basically do whatever Spider-Man he wants to do, and that's the character that he came up with to play.
Yeah, he says, "We don't pick the ballroom, we just dance." He's so good. What else? He says, "Sometimes I light matches down to my thumb just to feel something." He's basically like Batman, Spider-Man, kind of. But I agree, he's such a standout.
Who would you say?
I love the animation on Penny Parker. It's more sort of like anime stylized than anything else in the movie, and I feel like that stuff is really cool.
Obviously, Peter Porker.
Yes. John Mulaney doing great work. I mean, I guess also obviously, but Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, like the schlubby, older, sad version of Spider-Man who basically has a redemption arc in this. I mean, I think that he is so good in this vocal performance. Really makes the movie.
Yeah, truly. Well, let me tell you a little thing about what the story of this is. Basically, you got this kid. His name's Miles. He goes to an elite school. His parents are both, they're hardworking people who save lives in the, like the real life hero type New York City thing, right? His dad's, it's kind of like a hard ass, and he's going to school, and then all of a sudden one day he witnesses a horrible crime. He gets bitten by a spider. He's like, what's going on? He's going to search for the name that he saw imprinted on the spider, maybe, and then he's there and he sees Spider-Man get killed. And with his dying words, Spider-Man is like, I can tell that you have the spider power too. Like, you promise me that you'll stop whatever is about to happen. Well, he tries, and zap, a bunch of spider people come. Boom. There's a bunch of spider people. They're fighting with Kingpin. Kingpin is trying to bring back his family in this weird Hadron Collider that's going to bring them back from across the multiverse. And basically, Spider-Man is going to try and send everybody back to the universes that they came from, because it turns out people don't survive so well outside of their home dimension. So all of these spider people are going to die if he doesn't somehow get them back. Miles is the weakest. He's the newest of the spider people, and they kind of look down on him. They want to bring him along, but they don't think he's capable. And Peter B. Parker is going to sacrifice himself to allow the other spider people to get back, while he stays behind and vaporizes. Instead of what would make more sense, is Miles, who is from that dimension, to send them all back. Finally, Miles breaks free. He has his hero moment. He takes his leap of faith. He goes, he rescues them. He sends them all back to the right dimensions, and then has a badass showdown fight with Kingpin. Wins and doesn't kill Kingpin, puts him up in a web. Yeah. Like a classic friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Has a truly touching scene with his dad, and also that great moment with his uncle earlier in the movie. Bing, bang, boom. Coolest Spider-Man ever. And also one of the most touching messages at the end ever for a Spider-Man movie. Yeah. Just wonderful all around.
I agree, and I think I already know the answer, but flop or bop, Emmett?
Bop, baby, bop. How about for you?
Bop for me. I love this movie. I think it's absolutely my favorite of all the Spider-Man movies we've watched so far. It has all of the pure Spider-Man ingredients, and yet it also feels really fresh with this soundtrack. It feels a lot more modern. It's set in Brooklyn and not in Queens. I think it's a pretty good Brooklyn movie. Although obviously all the Aunt May stuff is set in Queens, and that stuff is really fun. There's also all of this revolutionary animation stuff going on.
Yes. Where this movie
looks like a comic book and doesn't look like every single other Disney Pixar movie, and is actually doing something radically different. And that stuff is the cherry on top to this already incredible story and characters in the movie.
It's truly gorgeous to behold. And the part where he finally jumps off the tallest building in New York, and he's first he's falling crazily, and then it does that crazy panel across where it's boom, 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 and he's falling straight down, and then it flips and he's falling. He's flying up towards that is crazy. That's like why animated movies are better at action than live action movies are, because you can do stuff like that if you're inventive enough and like creative enough to like think of it and pull it off in a cool, like just like a totally rad way, which they definitely do.
I love all that stuff. I love the last, like, basically the final fight with him and Kingpin is just like lights and sound and fury. Like, it doesn't look like anything else. It's just like this like cosmic thing of different colors, like just huge colored dots that they're like flashing in and out of and are circling all around them as they're like floating through time and space. And it's so overwhelming and exciting and visually interesting, basically.
Yeah. But damn, was there any behind the scenes?
Yeah, I read a little bit about the animation. There is a lot, and I do not understand all of it. So, like, there is basically a ton of stuff they, like, pioneered to do the animation in this movie. It was done by Sony Pictures Imageworks, who are, like, the Sony Pictures animated team. I guess they also worked on the CGI for the live-action Spider-Man movies.
Oh, wow.
Two different techniques they did. Just small examples of the many things they did. One of them is that there are some of the characters are animated at different speeds, like different frames per second, depending on like where they are in the story and which shot they're in. So like standard all TV and film is shot at 24 frames per second.
Uh-huh.
But there are like parts of this movie where Miles is 12 frames per second. And so he's like a little bit slower than everyone else. And then like once he gets his powers, he moves up into 24 frames a second.
Whoa.
And starts moving at like the same fluid motion as everyone else.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn.
I also read that they didn't use motion blur, which is like basically what every animated movie has used since like the 90s on today. And instead they used this technique called motion smearing, which is how they used to do Looney Tunes hand-drawn cartoons back in the 40s. And that's kind of why like it looks much more like crunchy and fluid. You know, like you can always kind of tell that things are moving at a different speed than everything around them. And that's like something they specifically did to be like hand-drawn cartoons instead of like CGI animated video games.
I noticed sometimes that it looks like it's animated in such a way that the foreground is in focus and the background isn't, which usually in animated stuff, everything can be in the same focus because you don't have a lens. But it like made it almost like more realistic in some ways.
Yeah.
Or not more realistic, but like felt more like a camera.
Mm-hmm. It's also, a lot of it is trying to emulate the art style of Sarah Pichelli, who is the original artist on the Miles Morales comics. Her and Brian Michael Bendis. If you have the opportunity to read any of their stuff, it's really good. I read their line for a while, and Sarah Pichelli's art is really good and looks a lot like this movie. I mean, the whole MO of the movie, I guess, was trying to like make it look like her art style.
Yeah.
How about the villain report? In this movie, we've got a few. I'm going to start with Kingpin, an absolute unit of a man, very messed up that he has lost his family, so he's going to open a portal to a different universe in the multiverse and pull different versions of his family members through and sort of kidnap them and bring them against their will into our universe to live as one happy family again until they see him and are horrified at what he's become. Sound familiar?
What?
We may talk about this exact plot line again in a couple months for Multiverse of Madness. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Wait, we're not going to have to talk about Multiverse of Madness, are we?
We said we would. We committed to it.
Did we really? It's not a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
He's not in it at all.
Well, we said we were going to do it for the X-Men. We said we were going to do it as the X-Men connection.
Oh,
which
God.
Is middling at best.
That movie also steals the cool ass like the cool ass like dimension fight between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. No, wait, no, it doesn't. That's the other one. We were actually going to talk about that movie, so I should shut up.
Oh yeah,
but it does like have a similar vibe.
That's No Way Home, which steals a lot from this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, but back to this movie. Kingpin, Emmett, do you know, played by your favorite actor, Liev Schreiber.
I did know. I saw it. I was like, why'd I like that guy so much? And then it came up in the credits. I was like, oh, that's why. Okay. Makes sense now. It's a good villain archetype, a pained madman archetype, but also like he lost his family because he was already a dick. So it's like, how bad do we really feel for him either? Not bad. So it's like, wow, we can understand why he's doing it. We're also like, you're just terrible. And Spider-Man does at least the world the favor of not killing Kingpin and letting him face justice at the hands of whomever else.
Yeah.
What about the Prowler? Is that the name of Uncle Aaron's character?
Yeah. I think he's really good. I think his relationship with his brother is really rich, and I love that they just like let that sort of exist, even though it isn't, even in moments when Miles isn't there, like when we see the dad making the phone call, and you hear a little bit how Uncle Aaron talks about him, you know, about he started doing the comp thing, and I don't know. I mean, I think it's a really good performance. I think the Prowler is like a very visually inventive too, like cool character in this. I think he's good. And I think he also is like genuinely scary before we realize that he's Uncle Aaron. Like they do a really good job of setting up the Prowler and Uncle Aaron as separate characters before you realize that they're one and the same. And that helps things.
That scene in the house is so tense. That's so good. When he's getting chased, he's gone over to Uncle Aaron's apartment. He almost gets found out. That part is just like so tense, and the visual on it is so cool. The fact also, I feel like we haven't mentioned this Spider-Man can turn invisible and has electric shocks in his fingers. What do you think about that? I don't know any spiders that can do that, but I guess you wouldn't. And that's what's so horrifying about it.
I think it's really cool. I've only really read the Miles comics, so I did know that like that's his thing going in, but it is a very cool thing to have on top of already having the spider powers, you know. Turning invisible is another very useful superpower to toss on top.
And when he finally does the shoulder touch.
Oh yeah, that's so good. I love that everything comes back around in the end of the movie. Like the shoulder touch comes back around. Basically, and the look at the hands, don't look at the mouth. Like everything that's set up early in the movie becomes an integral part of that ending, which I love. Yeah. How about Doc Ock, here played by Catherine Hahn as Olivia Octavius?
Okay. This villain, incredible. I love these weird octopus arms. They're somehow even freakier than Doc Ock's arms are normally. She's got classic mad scientist goggles and mad scientist hair. It's pretty awesome. At first, she's like, oh, she's just a normal scientist. She just wants what's best. And then, no, she's absolutely horrible and just as bad as Kingpin.
She's great. I love that the arms look like plastic tubes almost. They're like very weird, different type of arms, but I think they're super cool. A little small detail in here that I've always loved, though, when I call out. Early on, she says, my friends call me Liv, my enemies call me Doc Ock. And when she shows up at Aunt May's house, Aunt May says, oh, great, it's Liv, which is fun. And I think is a little reference, I think it's a little reference to the fact that in the comics, Aunt May and Otto Octavius have a fling and spend some time in a relationship. And I think that's also because Lily Tomlin is playing Aunt May in this. And she is like one of the first out actresses in Hollywood, like back in the 70s, has been around forever. So I don't know. That's just a little background detail, but I've always liked that.
That's cool. And it is part of the Catherine Renaissance that was, I believe, first sparked by WandaVision.
Yes, of course. And you know someone else who's having a great year who's in this is Zoe Kravitz, who plays MJ, I think in both universes.
And you know who else? This Scorpion guy and the dude with blue-gray skin and white hair. What's up with them? Who are they? What are they doing?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out who he is, because he's obviously some specific bad guy from the comics, but I don't know who he was. I don't think he talks.
The gray one or the Scorpion? The
gray guy. Because the Scorpion guy is just the Scorpion. He's actually in Homecoming too for a minute as like the guy in prison. And you've also got the Green Goblin as like this huge hulking actual goblin.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Okay. This gray guy is called Tombstone.
Oh, hell yeah. Tombstone and I used to be in a band in high school, but then he got weird. Started working for Kingpin.
Another small behind the scenes thing, Lord and Miller pitched a scene that was going to have, in animation, Toby, Andrew, and Tom all show up as their Spider-Mans. I think, in like a quick joke aside.
Yeah.
In this movie too. And Sony was like, no, you can't use them.
Damn.
Ask us why in a couple of years.
Damn.
Okay, MVP of this whole huge cast we've been talking about, Emmett, other than Miles Morales, who is your MVP of this movie?
Okay, it's got to be Uncle Aaron, then. Uncle Aaron / the Prowler. Several cool chase sequences, dope character as the villain, and then just really heart-wrenching stuff with him as as his uncle. The moment on the roof when he's shot by Kingpin after refusing to kill his nephew, and then Miles dragging him away. The scene right after with the dad. I mean, all of that stuff just really, it hits hard, when he's like, "You're the best of us, Miles," and telling him to go. It's like, that's super sad. Mahershala Ali, one of the greatest living actors. Yeah. How about you?
Oh, I mean, this is one of those ones where it could literally be, we could literally just do the cast report and go character by character and talk about how they're all great. So it's tough.
Yeah, exactly.
One I don't think gets a lot of attention, who I'm going to pick as my MVP, is Chris Pine as the original Peter Parker in Miles' universe, who dies at the beginning.
Uh-huh.
I think it's a really good performance. He introduces the movie doing basically the thing that like all the Tobey movies would do, where they're like, wow, I'm Spider-Man. Here's how it works. And then you see a little montage or something. I think his scene with Miles is really affecting and really great. I think he does such a good job like conveying like the perfect Spider-Man in a 3-minute scene, especially for like an older Spider-Man. He's kind of doing what Tom Holland does in Civil War, where like they've distilled it all down to this one little thing. But as like the adult, married, competent Spider-Man who has like a huge lab and is like an established crime fighter, I feel like he's really great. And I love him also singing all the Christmas songs. I feel like that adds a lot to the movie.
Yeah, that is hilarious.
And we couldn't pick him, but shout out to Shameik Moore playing Miles Morales from Dope and The Get Down. Shameik, it's a really good young kid performance too. I feel like there's so much energy that he brings to Miles.
I love the voice he does when he's talking to his dad at the end, like the deep voice that he's doing when he's like trying to pretend Spider-Man is somebody other than him, who it obviously is.
Yes.
It's like doing some like wacko version of his uncle.
When he first captures Peter B. Parker and he's like, I've got some questions.
That's so funny. Oh, and his suit, incredibly cool.
Oh, yeah, the suit is so cool. And with, like, the spray paint logo on it.
Yeah.
Is awesome. Shout out to Haley Steinfeld, too, who I know is just in everything these days. But as Gwen Stacy, Spider-Woman, I think is her name in her universe. She's also so good in that part. Okay, final thoughts. Emma, any final thoughts?
This movie just totally rocks. I think it might be in the one of my favorite movies that we've ever covered for the podcast ever. It's just very fun. Go watch it if you haven't already. Go rewatch it if you haven't done it anytime recently. Wade, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'd echo it completely. It's an incredible movie. Definitely go check it out if you haven't. As we said, not a lot of people saw it in theaters, so I think the more attention we can shine on it, the better. The post-credit scene is my favorite actor, Oscar Isaac, showing up as Spider-Man 2099. So that's exciting stuff. They are working on 2 sequels. We actually, originally, this series was going to end with us watching the sequel to this movie, and then it got pushed to next year. But they've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse coming out next year in June. The year after that, they're doing Beyond the Spider-Verse. They've got big plans for this universe. I hope it lives up to the heights of this movie.
That would be incredible. I hope so.
Okay, a quiz. I'm going to try and speed round this quiz as fast as possible. I think it's actually a pretty easy one. This movie in 2018 won Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards. I was going to look at the other films of the 2010s that won Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards. The first film from 2010 is a threequel in the critically acclaimed animated movie series. It's the one that made everyone cry.
Is it Toy Story 3?
It is Toy Story 3. The next year, this is a movie directed by Gore Verbinski. It's about a weird little lizard, I think. I don't really know.
It's Rango. It's incredible.
That is correct. The next movie, this is maybe the one I feel that holds up the least well. This is like a Scottish fantasy princess movie.
Brave?
It is Brave. And next up is another movie from Disney. This is like the only thing that kids talked about for the rest of the decade.
From which one?
It's also a fantasy movie. It's from 2013. It's another Disney princess musical.
Oh, Frozen.
Yes. 2014, I would say the most obscure one. This is a Marvel superhero movie, but from a very obscure set of characters. It's like a team of weirdo kid superheroes.
Oh, it's Big Hero 6. An incredible movie that I was reminded of by this movie at some points.
Yeah, I see those similarities. I watched Big Hero 6 because my little brother told me it was his favorite movie of all time. And then I watched it and I was like, if you've seen that movie, you might know what I'm talking about. The next film is a Pixar movie. This is like the start of their sort of like run of existential, big concept, like movies about feelings and spaces and human existence.
Is this WALL-E?
No, that's a good point. Maybe that is the one. This is a movie that takes place inside the head of a young girl.
Is this Inside Out?
That is correct. It is Inside Out. We've just got 3 more. 2016, this is one we recently had as a Bums the Word answer. It's got some shaky metaphors, but it's like a fun town adventure buddy cop film.
Oh, Zootopia. Bada boom, bada bing.
That is correct. 2017 is another Pixar movie. This is maybe one that people think is Disney, but it is Pixar. It's kind of a musical. It's about a specific culture, as Disney movies are, and a young boy who wants to get more in touch with his family, ends up going into the spirit realm to connect with them.
Oh. Is this... what was... I know it had to do with the Day of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And what was it called? Damn it! Was it the kid's name?
It's not the kid's name.
Was it somebody's name?
It's a 4-letter word. It's similar to Vivo, but not that. All right, I'm going to call it. This is Coco.
Coco, of course.
Coco is 2017. Into the Spider-Verse is 2018, and the last movie of the decade, sort of a benchmark with the same one from 2010. This is the 4th movie in the critically acclaimed series. Some would say we didn't need it, but it came and it's still kind of good.
Is that Toy Story 4?
That is indeed Toy Story 4. Those are the 2010's winners. Best animated feature. I feel like I could pretty confidently say that's Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite of all those 10 movies.
Of all of those, yeah, that's a pretty easy call.
I do like Zootopia and Toy Story 3. Okay, well, Emmett, we are going to get back to our Spider-Man series in 2 weeks when we cover Avengers Endgame. But next week, that's right, baby, the year is up, if you can believe it. Next week, we are watching Jordan Peele's Nope.
Oh, the spine tingles. I am horrified and delighted. I cannot wait. Counting down in days now rather than in weeks. Truly, it's been a torturous wait, but soon we will know all there is to Nope. Until then, dear listeners, stay frosted.
Cinema Bums is a production of DKG Podcast. It is created and produced by Emma Temple and me, Wade Lawrence Holloman. I also edit and mix the podcast. Our theme music is by Zane Holloman, who you can find on Bandcamp, and our show art is by Autumn Beckner. Our social media is managed by Laura Bennett. If you like what you hear, please tell all your friends and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, the 2 best ways to spread the word about our work. You can also follow us on Instagram at CinemaBums or email us at cinemabumspod@gmail.com. Don't flake on us. We'll be back next week